Welcome in. Awesome. Okay, so I think people are going to kind of trickle in over the next couple of minutes. Everyone just wants to mute themselves for the time being. That would be great. We're going to have about 20 people or so it should be a good number, not too big, not too small. And the goal of today's call is basically to talk through what we've been working on with everyone over the past couple of months, and get feedback from you guys in real time. We have this cool little polling system where we're going to basically talk through some of the features and get your thoughts as we go. But feel free to also bump into the chat anything that you want to say at any point. We all obviously know all of you now really well, because we've had a lot of back and forth. So we want it to be a good open conversation, be as honest as possible with us. Got more people. And then we're going to try to keep it probably to like 40 minutes if we can, we know everyone's busy. So we'll try to be swift, and then send adequate follow-ups as well after the call. So I think we should just dive in. We're 2 minutes in. This is the Spotlight webinar, the first of, we'll see how many we want to do. So the first thing we're going to do is just kind of say hellos. I think most of you have met most of us on the Cohart team, but we actually have a couple other folks on the call, including Whitney and Sam. So this is, I didn't know that Whitney and Sam were joining, so they're not on the slideshow, but I'll have them start actually. Sam, do you want to just introduce yourself really quickly so everyone gets to say hi?
Hi everyone, I'm Sam. I just joined Cohart at VP Engineering for a month and a half now. I'm very excited to bring my expertise to help our platform and our community to go further. So looking forward to a lot of feedbacks from you guys so we can help the platform grow as well as you guys grow.
Yeah, so if you ever have feature requests, who to call. Always Sam. Whitney, do you want to jump in too quickly? If you are on your computer.
Oh yeah, hi, Whitney. I am helping Cohart with anything creative related. So also looking forward to hearing what you all have to say today.
Yeah, Whitney's been doing all of the Spotlight features. Everything that you see across our marketing assets is all Whitney. So big shout out to Whitney. Susan, you want to jump in?
Hi, everyone. Susan Washington. I'm the ambassador here at Cohart, artist ambassador, full-time artist, and I'm author of a book, The Art of Selling Art, and I write all the educational content in the blogs, so please read them.
Susan's been amazing. So she's been also onboarding artists and helping us create features that are relevant and helpful, hopefully for artists. So an artist on the inside, as we like to say. Dari, you want to jump in?
Hi, as she said, I'm Dariana. I work closely with Kendall and Whitney to bring you guys a lot of what you see on Cohart social media channels. So I'm looking forward to what you guys think of everything new coming up with Cohart and all of your ideas so we could better support it on socials in the future.
Dari's been a social media rock star, so very excited to have her. Lauren, do you want to jump in?
Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren. I'm the community manager here at Cohart, and I have been in contact with all of you. So thank you so much for all of our communication that we've been having. I know I've been kind of bugging you for social materials and sending you next steps, but it's been a really fun experience to be involved in the pilot program with you. So very happy to see so many familiar faces today here.
Awesome. Yeah, if you don't know Lauren, something's wrong. Okay, and then Shaveen, I think most of you know as well. She's my co-founder based right now in Asia. So time zone wise, Shaveen and I just did a webinar at 7 a.m. Eastern time this morning with a bunch of artists in Asia and Europe. So she's not joining now because it's 2 a.m. But Shaveen's background, is working as a gallerist and art dealer. Art World with capital A is how I define it. So miss her here today. So we were going to do introductions with everyone, but weren't sure how many people are going to join. So we just are going to shout out everyone in your art. I pulled an image of everyone's art. I think I captured everyone, but if you registered late, you might not be in this little slideshow. But just as we go through, if people want to just chime in and say, where they are, you can drop your Instagram handle, your Cohart profile. Part of what we want to do in this webinar is structure more of a community for folks. So I think it's great for everyone here to connect, not just with us as a team, but also with each other. So feel free to just put that in the chat, and then we can, again, kind of keep an open conversation as we go, but we've got a lot of material to run through. So just can do a little async. So we've got Amy. I just saw Amy join the call, so excited to have Amy on board. Jacob, I actually know where everyone's based, so I'm going to be shouting this out. Randall, Felipe, Meredith, who's going to be joining, I think, for the first 30. Marilyn, Wyatt, Roma, Francesca could not join today, but here in spirit. Kathleen, Malcolm, Jerem, Chris, Felipe, Liz, Sam, and that's it. So a quick little preview. Welcome, everyone. Again, if you want to just kind of drop in where you are. I'm not sure if everyone, some people might have been on the morning call. Some people might have just signed up. So if you're not in this, I apologize. We'll make sure you get a special shout out. But yeah, just make sure to kind of mention where you're at in the world, and that way we can all stay connected. So for this call, again, what we want to do is focus on what we've been building for the past quarter or so, as just mostly tools for artists. And that's part of why we launched this Spotlight program, to really get an idea of what everyone's looking for and what everyone needs. As mentioned, we're kind of halfway through this quarter, so the goal is to get a feeling of what everyone's looking for going forward, get some real-time feedback about what's been most useful, what's not useful, and then kind of think about January through June based on what we hear in this conversation. So again, we've talked about maybe doing a similar pilot for advisors and for high intent collectors. But this is something that we're kind of navigating as we go, and it will be helpful to chat about here today. So this section of the webinar is called You Asked, We Listened. And I was going to go through each feature, but first, I think I'll just kind of share this prototype because it's a little bit more interactive, and talk through some of the things that we've been trying to focus on holistically, and then we can kind of go through each feature and then poll everyone on what's been helpful, what's not been helpful, and what you want to see more or less of. So one big thing that we've been trying to build over the past couple months is ways for you to streamline how you do community operations and communication. So one of the big features that was launched, which we got to partner with Malcolm on to boost it, was this kind of first access notification feature, where when you have a new piece of art, you can basically come in, you can notify your fans and your collectors, and it will auto-populate a newsletter template, which sends to emails, and it's sent as a push notification. Part of what we want to do at Cohart as well is connect the dots between you and your collectors and build that trust and build that network. So as a collector, basically, these people will get newsletters directly in their dashboard, and that, again, communication sync is much tighter within the collector to artist experience. So that's one key feature, again, more about community building. Another thing that we've been talking about a lot is more of this mobile storefront and figuring out how to support artists with their direct sales. This kind of came up over the past couple months when we started to have artists who were asking if they could process sales through their Cohart profile. And we started to think about the fact that there's not really a central place for artists to make sales other than PayPal or, a Shopify website. And so many of us have email interactions or Instagram DMs, and having a credible way to, make purchases was sort of the original concept of the storefront. People can, make offers in this. We're probably going to be introducing chatting in the next couple of weeks, hopefully, Sam. But we've explored what it would be like to have interactive offers. We're also exploring a commission feature and thinking about ways in which people can, again, have more interaction in terms of the buyer to collector experience. And then a big one as well is more of this referral network. So we found that, a lot of collectors typically want to share their collections. They want to talk about the artists that they love and get rewarded for collecting or sharing that collection with friends. So in this feature, if you subscribe to an artist update, you would get a notification when they have new work, which is part of that sort of first access flow. But as a buyer, if you purchase something, maybe there's a discount incentive because you are a subscriber, you actually get these certificates of authenticity, which is something that we're working on, kind of making it more clear how the process works for artists. But the goal is that, your collectors can basically go around and talk about you to the world and share your pieces with their audiences and get rewarded for credits. So this is kind of what a lot of the stuff looks like on the mobile interface. And again, part of the goal for this call is to talk about some of these features specifically and understand what should we kind of like double down on, what is not clear, what is just like completely irrelevant. So we're going to do some polling, which is going to be a fun little experiment. All of the answers are anonymous. So the first poll that we have is about the mobile storefront, which I'm going to launch. So again, the goal of the poll is basically to get your thoughts about like, is this feature helpful? Do you feel like it would be helpful to have a place that you can plug into your Instagram, or you could use instead of like a Shopify website to make sales with buyers on the go? So you can just vote what you think. You can also add comments if you're not sure. And I'm going to give it like, should I go through them quickly, or do you guys need some time to poll? Lauren, what do you think? Should I wait a little bit or should I just go through it?
Are you seeing any answers coming through?
I'm not seeing where to poll.
Where's the poll?
I'm glad I asked. Okay, open up the chat.
Oh,
I think. Do you see the chat in the poll? Or the poll in the chat?
no.
So guys, if you're on an Apple device, you hit the three dots on the bottom of the screen, and it says activities.
Oh.
And activities and the poll is right there. Sorry about that. I'll be out.
Yes.
There we go. Some poll troubleshooting. Did that work for everyone?
It's that little button in the lower right corner that has the square, the circle, and the triangle.
Oh.
Yeah,
You
got
click
it.
on that, and then you click on polls. You'll see we've got the question right here. Is the mobile storefront helpful? Does that help?
Yep.
We're getting some answers
Thanks,
now.
Malcolm, as well.
Our tech support. I honestly don't know what it looks like on my or on your side because I'm like looking at the poll. So we just figured out this feature. So it's I'm glad we figured it out. Okay, so this should stay live as we jump to the next one. The next one is the installment payments, which we've been using via Klarna. I will say I don't think we've done a very good job at articulating how this works. So it's something that we've been thinking about putting more communication behind, but trying to understand basically, how can we do installment plans for artists with payments? So people can choose Klarna at checkout today, and it will automate I haven't launched it. It'll automate an installment plan, which we've seen work with a couple of artists. We just haven't talked about this feature as much. So if this feels like something that would be useful, if you want us to kind of invest more time in this for you and your buyers, please let us know. I don't want to open up a can of worms, but we're also exploring discount codes as well that you could create for yourself. So if you have any thoughts about that, you can put it in the chat as well. Okay. The next one is exclusive access. So again, that core concept is that basically when you are uploading a piece of art that you can notify your collectors or your fans and your followers that there's a new piece. So this is kind of scaling towards this idea of more of a newsletter functionality where, Cohort could have like templates where for your collectors, they're basically getting your updates in a more streamlined fashion. The exclusive access would give people the ability to collect something before it goes live onto your profile or into the broader community. So we think that that's the original concept was more about scarcity, right? Like how do you get people excited and how do you reward your collectors? So it's something that we've been excited to experiment with. So it'll be interesting to see what you all think about this feature. And then the digital certificate of authenticity. So again, the idea for this one is that when people purchase something, they get this digital certificate that they can add to their mobile wallet. I can just share an example. And that there is a, so basically be like embedded in here, and that there's a referral incentive for people to, share your collection with, share your art with friends to get credits for future collecting. So it's kind of cool because it like embeds directly into your phone. But we've gotten some feedback that people still don't really know how it works. So it's good to get your thoughts in terms of whether or not something you want us to keep building on. Okay, we're almost done with the polling on the features. The next one is sharing your storefront. So we just changed the link for your storefront to just be cohort.com/your artist username. And the goal for this, storefront is that it can sort of exist like in its own universe and, exploring eventually having this just be like a custom URL. But right now, if you click your avatar on your storefront, it'll pop up a little QR code, which will enable people to easily follow you with one click. And, part of what we want to do is create more connectivity, again, between the community, sort of streamline like the omni-channel, offline, online. So just trying to understand how to make this as easy as possible for people to find you and follow you. I think this is the last one. So for the pickup at checkout, this came when we were talking to artists about doing sales in person. So if you have a studio visit or if you have a show, again, instead of using Venmo, is there a way to just have pickup at checkout or drop off at checkout? So that way it is streamlining how your audience management is organized. So it's kind of a simple feature. It just basically removes the shipping cost from the buyer at checkout. Again, we probably haven't talked about this a ton, but when you do shipping at checkout, there's a flat fee that the buyer pays, which is a pretty seamless experience for the buyer. So it's just helpful to know whether or not, again, people need support with their in-person sales as well. Okay. One more poll here. Let me find it. So this is kind of taking a little bit of a zoom out, but if we were going to kind of dive deeper on any of these tools as a team, what are the things that you think would be most useful for us to focus on of what we focused on in the past couple of weeks? So feel free to vote the options that we have right now. You can add other in the chat, but the first access tool and like ways to engage your early buyers, optimizing your Cohart storefront. So making that a space where you can basically, use that in lieu of a personal website or potentially in lieu of like a link in bio. Ability to use analytics to boost sales. So something we hear from artists a lot is that, you sort of operate in a vacuum. Like you don't really get a lot of feedback loops from buyers or from analytics. And I think we have the unique ability with the network function to really boost this for artists as a focus. The payment options as well. So there's a lot in the world of fintech that we could build. So interesting to see if that's something that, is useful. And then if you don't have any thoughts and you're like, oh, we don't need anything else, you can say I'm all set. Okay, great. Got some good votes on that one. And then just to touch on some things that are upcoming, I know most of you have been very, very helpful in terms of sharing thoughts and bugs with us as we're bringing the product to life. So we just wanted to highlight and address some of the things that have been asked for quite frequently that are right around the corner and should be live by the end of the year. These are mostly just the artist-facing tools specifically that we're talking about from the roadmap. So in November, we will launch Tap to Pay. So you could just have your, I think it's just with invoicing that we'll start with, but someone can double tap and it will, I don't know how to describe it, Apple Pay, I guess, from your phone to their phone. So that will be synced to the invoicing feature, which you can actually add multiple items to your invoice and send it directly to collectors. We'll process the payment. Again, we still do all the shipping, insurance, authentication. With an invoice, the collector will get a certificate of authenticity that we just referenced, and they'll also get added into your backend. So invoicing has come up through people talking about doing sales with interior designers or commissions, and we think it's a really important feature because you don't always want to use QuickBooks as like a invoice. So those are the first two, collecting emails in storefront. So when you go to someone's storefront, I'll just show everyone because we're doing the whole thing here. Like Dylan's, for example, I always use Dylan as an example, but here instead of right now, if you click subscribe, you have to basically sign up for Cohart. And then if you do, then you become a follower. And the next version of this, there'll just be an email input. So that way we're not forcing people to sign up for Cohart or join a new network, but that person's email will just get added into your dashboard. So you can start to build out more of an email list and have access to that information without adding any type of friction with buyers, which we keep hearing is like a very big point of focus. So that is the collect emails, artists inviting collectors. So now that you can send, again, invoices, and now that DMing is around the corner, we think that artists inviting the collector flow is really important. And we also know that it's a sensitive relationship. So we've been spending the past couple of weeks streamlining that flow to make it really smooth, and also the collector inviting artist flow. So it'll be really great to get your feedback once that improves. And then kind of on the merchandising side, saving artwork as a draft, rearranging artwork. We know that that is like a big thing. And I would just say, we're sorry that we have not allowed you to do that for a while. But you'll be able to move things around in your profile. We know it's frustrating to not be able to change the order. Also saving things as a draft. Like I think the uploading flow is kind of time intensive, and we want to make sure that it's really easy to just save things and come back to them. So that's kind of what we have on tap for the next couple of weeks in November. And then in December, we have a like shoppable PDF. I'm sure many of you send many PDFs all the time, or like always exporting and importing different prices. Something that we're really interested in trying to solve, and thinking more about like a interactive link where you could do a private view of pieces that are available. We have a version of it right now, just to show you that already used for a print release this morning, where you can basically customize like what people see. But we're thinking that for this, you would actually be able to change prices or hide information or see who's viewed different types of PDFs or links. Oopsies. So that way you get the information in the analytics back as well. So that is this feature. And then there's some stuff on the community side, like being able to tag users. We've gotten a lot of feedback that, when you get a notification and you click on it, it goes to the wrong place. And those are things that we need to fix that are on tap as well. But being able to actually like tag people, reply back, have real conversations. We know that everyone's been blocked on that. We're also looking at implementing the feed on web. So really trying to level up the community features for artists. We know that it's super, super important. The branded URL, again, there was a time when it was like cohart.com/u/Kendall/storefront. It's crazy. So we're trying to make that a smaller, tighter URL that's more about your own brand that you could customize. Again, seeing who liked what, being able to like click into collectors' profiles, DM them. That's a big one that hopefully we'll have soon. We can just harass Sam about that one as soon as possible. Being able to embed your storefront on your artist website. So that's another thing that we keep hearing is like, you have your Cohart profile, then you have your personal website. What's the relationship between the two? And we're looking at ways in which you could either embed your products into a Shopify site, or there's ways in which there's a more seamless connection between those two. So those are the things for the next 2 months. And then some other things, again, that we're talking about would be more of a formal commission feature, newsletter templates. We know that updating your customers and doing quarterly updates, it's very time intensive and it's hard to write, especially if you're like a visual artist. It's just hard to figure out what to say. Having an away status, we've had some sales artists who have been traveling, and just giving more communication to your buyers. And then again, on the merchandising side, like duplicating artworks and then being able to self-add testimonials. It's kind of a lengthy description of all these things, but I think it's important for everyone to know about this. So now we're going to go into like one last round of polling, and then we can open up for a group conversation and just chat about everything in the comments. So go back to my poll mode. Here we go. So taking a zoom out, again, we've talked about what we've been working on. All of you have gone through a couple of weeks of this Spotlight pilot and have heard firsthand about what has been a focus and what we've been building. And, we've always kind of had this triangle of like the marketplace, the community, and tools. And so we'd really love to learn from you, what are the things that we should be doubling down on next? Again, we sort of have our toes in a bunch of these, but we want to make sure that we create density and we get to the finish line on like feature functionality for some of these. So seeing a lot for collectors, which resonates. That came up in the morning session as well. But yeah, please let us know what you think, and you can also add more in the chat that aren't represented here. Okay, the challenges. So this is all these are anonymous, so feel free to answer candidly. But for us, it's very helpful to understand what are some of the challenges of selling art online today as an artist, other than doing everything yourself. Anything specific that, you feel like is the biggest pain point. Again, for us to know as a team, it's very helpful, whether it's visibility, whether it's like how to actually use these tools, if it's just time, all the shipping logistics, if it's the fees, obviously they're going up and climbing on marketplaces. And if you have other, feel free to add it in the chat. Give this one like one more second. Okay, and we're almost done with the polls. Okay, and then we have the Spotlight pilot. So again, this has been like a new initiative. So big shout out to Lauren for helping bring it to life. I think we've learned so much from working with all of you as artists, and we're really, really grateful to have the opportunity to have this type of relationship and to get real-time feedback about what's working, what's not working. We're trying to figure out how to move this forward. So I think just getting an idea from you about, how do you want this to operate? What could you use more support with? What types of things can we invest more time in? Again, whether it's cross marketing or it's cross product or it's across community building, feel free to chime in here. And then second to last poll, hope you're all not too sick of the polls, but we're almost done with the polls. If we do decide to continue forward on this webinar series, we've had a lot of ideas about what it could look like. We have a lot of prototypes in the works for new features that we're always really excited to share with artists and get feedback. We also know that some of what we're building is like a net new feature concept, and sometimes we come up with words like moments, and you're like, what is a moment? And I think just getting more educational information about like how Cohart works and us talking about that more is valuable. Marketing comes up like all the time with artists. I mean, it's so challenging to like actually be a marketer and make the art and do the business side. But I think especially with today's landscape, there's just a lot of moving pieces in the digital space, in digital marketing. Guest speakers. So I think, as a team, we get to hear from all of you as an individual what your stories look like as artists. And we've been, again, really grateful to have firsthand access to that. But we're also cognizant of the fact that maybe you could connect with each other more and have more, again, community building and sort of spotlight like best practices and learnings. And then that kind of dovetails into success stories. So like, how do we hear about what is working, again, as an artist in today's dynamic landscape. All right. And then last poll question before we open it up. So again, we don't want to make like more work for artists. So we don't want to make like another thing. But we also recognize this is a very special group of, again, high performing artists that have made a career out of something that's like very challenging to do. So we have a lot of respect for all of you as individuals, and we think that there could be value in having more of a communal space where people could stay connected. So whether that's Slack group, a WhatsApp group, an email chain, just regular webinars, or one-on-one communication, which we'll probably keep doing anyways. Let us know what your preferences are there, and we can make sure that it's implemented. Okay, that is our last poll. We're at exactly 30 minutes. So if anyone needs to jump, that's kind of like all of the information. But we'd love to have a little bit of a group conversation. I know that there's some stuff that came up in the comments. Maybe, Lauren, if there's anything specific that you saw that would be helpful to clarify. And if anyone has questions off the bat, they can just dive in as well. I'll stop sharing this. Yes, Malcolm.
So I want to say thank you guys for all your hard work with my spotlight. It's a great experience. So my biggest question is, do we have a cohort live feature? A feature where I can go live and actually paint for my collectors. I found it's a big tool that I use with network, and with YouTube that brings me a lot of additional sales. And I would love to see a cohort can bring this as well.
Yeah, it's a great idea. We actually have a prototype for that that we've, and I'll just show you guys while we're on this, while we're here in the mode. It's one of the first things that we thought about, and we've been trying to figure out when we want to implement it. And it's sort of a big dev effort. Let me just share, find the exact screen. So if anyone wants to add in the chat, if they also think that this would be helpful.
Are you sharing? Okay, it just popped up.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to get to load. But yeah, the idea was on the feed, there could be live events. So as well as more like blog and event content. So this is just a mock-up, but basically you could have a studio visit session where, you have a piece that's being featured and people could purchase it, or they could view it from that live stream. And then there would be like a group conversation. People could interact back and forth, but again, people could purchase it as well, or go to the artwork itself. So that's kind of, again, something that we prototyped a while back. If people like it, you can give it a little emoji, and we can talk about it from a development standpoint.
And so being someone who sells on network now, I understand the importance of having a live sales section. I mean, if that's the feature that we do get, we should do like a network train where we kind of organize 4 or 5 artists that kind of all create within us as well. Being on network, I've learned is one of the best ways to add new collectors.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a great idea. So it's good to know that it's an important feature. See some stuff about questions, the percentages. Anything else that wasn't mentioned, or?
Are you able to just explain the shipping fee in a little more detail, if that's possible?
Yes. Yeah. Let me just show you all what the process looks like. Okay, this is my test account. That I will just show you what it looks like to actually purchase something. So if you go in to purchase something on Cohart, whether you are on mobile or web, you will check out as a guest. We don't require people to have an account to check out. If you do have an account, you can sign in and it will auto-populate your information. But let's just say I'm checking out as a guest, and I'm just going to go through the whole thing because it's $1 you would enter in your phone number, and then if it's shipping, depending on where your address is, it will have a flat fee. So if you're domestic, it's going to be 8%. If it's international, it'll be 10%. So that will be auto calculated for the buyer. So let's say we're going to do like Turkey instead, then it will go to 10%. So again, we try to make it as seamless as possible for your buyer, because we know that that's the most important thing, is reducing all the friction and making sure that it's, again, seamless for people to check out. If they click pick up, it's just going to go to 0. And we're actually going to change this to pick up / drop off as well. So that way it's, in case it's a local drop off, you can choose that too. But if you do ship something, let's just say 62 Rogers Ave, New York, Brooklyn, 11216. You go to payment, and then this is where you have the payment information. So you can do a bank transfer, you can do your card, you can do Google Pay, you can do Klarna. Again, Klarna will do the installment payment, which is super cool. If I'm gonna just do my company card, and then you click Pay Now, basically it'll send you a confirmation email with all the certificates of authenticity, the shipping information. At this point, once we receive the payment, we will immediately contact the artist, and that's what Lauren is responsible for. So you'll probably hear from her first. But we basically get in touch with you ASAP. It sort of depends if the piece is going to, a specific location, if it's like a funky place internationally, or if it's, local. There's different types of shipping situations for different circumstances. So normally we'll just check in with you first and say, hey, this piece is going to Bulgaria, like, do you use DHL often? Or this is going someplace that's 5 miles away, like, is that just a drop off? So normally we have the artist inform us on what they think is best, because most of you are really savvy at doing all the logistics on your own. And then once we get some direction from you, if you have pre-existing experiences with where you're shipping to, then we actually go and build out the label, we buy it, we'll get the insurance, we plug in the tracking information into a system that will automatically notify your buyers when things are shipped, when they're about to arrive, once they've arrived, a check-in email as well for feedback. And in the next version, they'll actually be prompted to take a photo of the artwork in their home and have it sent to you as like an optional way to close the loop on the sale. But it's very, very high touch. Like, we're very involved in the shipping information. And in some cases, if, we need to build a crate, or if there's something specific, with the style of the piece, then we'll work really closely with you to help support and make that happen. So yeah, we care a lot about customer service. That's what I would say.
Thank you for that answer. So you guys pay for the shipping at the moment, right? Is that what you're saying?
So
Okay.
basically the buyer is charged like an 8 to 10% flat fee. And then sometimes the shipping label is more than 8 to 10%, and sometimes it's less than 8 to 10%. So we kind of net out at 0. And then again, we're trying to move away from the word commission, because, a lot of artists are starting to process sales through this tool. So that's why we've been using the word like fees, like transaction fees. And also the reason that we're just trying to learn from all of you as artists, like how this process should work. So right now we're not taking a transaction fee, but probably, again, go back to taking a 5% transaction fee over time. But the goal is to have it be as streamlined as possible for you, and to give you as much of the sale as you can, and then not have to use PayPal and like do everything yourself.
Okay, got it. Thank you. That was very helpful.
Yeah, detailed response. But I know as an artist, like, it's something you think about. What does your buyer's experience look like? And obviously you don't really get to see that as much, but this is an example of, a Charlie XCX collage. So thoughts. Kathleen, do you want to jump in? I see.
Good morning. I would just like, since I'm very new to the platform, I would like to, like, the best case scenario, if you could tell me, if someone came to the studio, would it be best for them to click on the piece of artwork and then start buying it, or download the app, or what do you What's the
Yeah. So I'll kind of talk through again, Dylan example. So the original idea with the storefront specifically was that it looks kind of weird on web, but was that it was a mobile first way to basically present your work, your sales graph, all the things that build trust, insurance, authentication. And there's there's like the Cohart logo down here, but it's very much like in its own world, which is why, we've been thinking this is a useful tool for some of your in-person sales and, your like studio pickups. So people could go to your storefront, which is just, I don't know, I can't show the URL, but it's just cohart.com/your artist username. So that's a little bit different than your profile. So your profile is cohart.com/your artist username/profile. And your profile, it has more information, but it has all of our company logos and branding on it. So, and you can like get out of it, quickly because there's all these buttons. So that's why we thought like this is a little more interesting for you to have as a tool that is more focused, on you and your sales. So if you had something in person, we would recommend probably trying to use this tool, but we would also be curious to hear from you about how you would want it to work differently. Because it's, that's the concept, but we don't really know if it's hitting the mark on execution.
Yeah. Okay. So, and if someone wanted a commission, because I have requests, but then it takes quite a long time to, for people to follow through. But how would that work with the commission and then get on to Cohart and doing the transaction through you?
How would you want it to work in your dream state?
I guess, yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well, if you have an idea about it, let me know. But the way that we're thinking about it is that you could make an invoice for a client with your Cohart dashboard. So that's like the next version, is that you have an invoicing tool for a new piece. Let me see if I can show you an example. This is an example of an invoice that's been paid. I should find one that's not paid so you can see what it looks like on the buyer end. But right now, if you were, going back and forth with the client on email or on a commission form, you could send them an invoice in the next like 7 days once the feature goes live. And then the payment would process through us. We would still handle all the shipping, insurance, and authentication. But we're also exploring a feature specifically for commissions where we actually facilitate the back and forth. We've done a couple manually, but we know that there's more structure that could take place, like a button on your profile that sends a request, and you have like an inbound form that we would be a liaison for. So that's what we're thinking about.
Okay.
Does that seem like something that would be helpful?
Yeah, I think so. I guess once the commission, the going back and forth, I think, it is easier with when you're doing the commission, but then once it's finished, it would be great just to hand it over and then, you as the buyer.
Yeah, that's a great, very great point. We will pass that to our product team because we've been thinking about that feature.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. And then just to kind of go through, yeah, Amy, on the part about the Klarna payments, basically Klarna as a company pays us out immediately. So we just had a Klarna payment that was $4,000. The $4,000 in total came directly to us immediately. So we paid out the artist ASAP. And basically Klarna is responsible for like getting the rest of the payments from the buyer. So they sort of hold that responsibility. So we'll be able to pay you out immediately with Klarna, which is really helpful and great because it builds a lot of trust, if that answers your questions. And then another one, Yeah, so just in general too for the app, so everyone kind of knows like the app is the app. It's like a mobile app. We love the idea of a mobile app for discovery, but we found that there's app fatigue in today's world, right? Like people don't necessarily want to download another app, which is again why we're trying to reduce as much friction as possible. So we're trying to create like a similar experience across web and mobile, make sure that there's parity between the two and not force people to make an account or download an app to purchase something because we know that it can create more hoops to get through. Jacob, I think your question about the QR to storefront is an interesting one. We can definitely streamline that process to make it simpler. But yeah, the idea is that someone could use the QR code to go immediately to your storefront. They can click buy now. They can follow you. But actually in this morning's session too, we had a really interesting point that someone was saying, you know, the mobile storefront's still sort of hard to navigate and they'd almost have it rather be like a link in bio, link tree format where like each photo has a link to the buying. So we might be able to streamline that as well to make it a little bit smoother. All about streamlining. Got to keep it as simple as possible. Okay. Is there anything else that was like a burning question or comment that anyone had? I think we covered like most of the main questions here. Lauren, do you have anything else while we're on you think is important to mention?
I can't really think of anything else. I mean, we're moving forward on schedule with the Spotlight pilot, so I'll just continue to be in touch with all of you individually when I need something from you. But everybody's been super responsive so far, and we're on schedule. So I guess if you have any questions about Spotlight or anything related to the platform, then just to continue to reach out to myself and Kendall, and we can help you one-on-one, or we can set up a call with you too.
Yeah, we're always happy to do little demos as well and talk through things. It's very helpful for us to hear your questions because then it helps us figure out how to streamline the flow more. And also just super appreciative of all the time and the feedback. I think we've made a ton of progress in the past 6 to 8 weeks, mostly just because we've had this feedback loop going with artists like you. So it's been very helpful for us and a very successful 2 months just being able to partner with you. So we're very appreciative. Okay, well, we're coming up at the 50-minute mark. So I think what we'll do is we'll send out a recap on email to everyone. Chris, a bird in the studio. It's a nice little symbol, bird coming in. Well, yeah, we'll send out a recap on email and kind of summarize all of the feedback. Feel free to follow up with us if there's anything that we missed. If you have more questions, please let us know. And again, we're going to keep listening to you, working quickly, working hard to make something that hopefully makes lives easier as an artist. So really grateful for everyone. Sam, you want to chime in?
No, I pressed the button.
Oh. You can conclude, Sam. You're building.
I thought this is my first session, and I think it's really helpful for us engineering department to hear from all of you, because at the end of the day, what we're building is to support you all. So these kind of sessions very helpful for us, and I look forward to more sessions like this in the future. Also, bigger back on Kendall that we will try to do things fast and keep you guys posted on progress.
Awesome. Okay. I'm going to stop the recording.